Welcome to the Mangrove Community. Strengthening the community one branch at a time. For more information about the community or how to volunteer, please visit mangrovecommunity.org.
All right, we are back. Welcome to Reasonable Doubt. This is Carl Ward, your host. We have a very special guest here today, Tony Buzbee, mayoral candidate for the city of Houston. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, Carl. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Thank you. Well, first we'd like to thank you for coming out to visit us and speak with us. So let us know a little bit about yourself. Let us know, where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school?
Okay.
Your career path?
Yeah, I grew up in a very little town you probably never heard of called Atlanta, Texas.
Never heard of it.
My dad was a meat cutter. He cut meat for Safeway for 43 years as a union meat cutter.
Okay.
My mother worked in the cafeteria and also drove our school bus. So I would get on the school bus at 5:30 in the morning, and then at the end of the school day, we'd get off the school bus, and she kept it parked in front of our front yard. Yeah, and then we also, to supplement our income, because we didn't have a whole lot, we had pigs and chickens and ducks and guineas and geese, and we had a little garden that we would have fresh vegetables in the late spring, and that was kind of my growing up. I was a real sports person, so I really liked football, baseball, track, basketball, but because I had to work in school, my dad said pick one sport, and so I picked football, and so I was a football guy.
Okay.
And we were a 3A school, so I played every position on the team.
Right.
Because I literally never came off the bench.
Right.
Or came back to the bench, I should say. But there was a guy in town who had seen me play football, and he called my mother up and said, your son has a lot of spunk. I want to take him to a Texas A&M football game. And now if somebody called, you have children.
Right, I do.
So if somebody were to call you up and say, I want to take your kid somewhere, you'd be like, wait a minute, what is it you want? What's going on? But
red flags go up.
Yeah, red flags, right? But my mother was very flattered. And so this man who had graduated from Texas A&M in 1960 drove me to Texas A&M, and I got to watch A&M play Arkansas. I got to watch the Corps Cadets. I got to take a tour of the campus. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, man, I want to go to college.
Right.
Previous to that, I didn't think I could go because we didn't have any means to go. He also helped me figure out how to get a ROTC scholarship. So I was able to get a scholarship where they paid for my tuition, my books, and they gave me $100 a month, which can you imagine trying to live on that now? But
right.
And then I went to college, did okay because coming from a little 2 to 3A school and going to a Division I school and not having the ability to have a tutor and all that stuff, I was just trying to get through it.
Right, just trying to make it.
And none of my family had ever been to college, so I didn't have that institutional knowledge, about to tell me like you need to do this or that. But after I finally graduated, I went into the Marines and served in the Persian Gulf, and also served in Somalia.
Okay.
In the peacekeeping or humanitarian mission that was there. At some point, decided, you know what? I've done special ops training. I've been in 2 different units. I was a commanding officer. I was a captain. I want to go back to Houston and go to law school. So I came back and went to University of Houston Law Center. Didn't even know that if you're a veteran that serves from Texas, you get free tuition at every state school. Had no idea about that. I'd been saving up money because I didn't have any way to pay for it. And so yet another time there was a hand up, but not a handout. Right. That helped me.
Right.
And since I graduated law school, I've been doing as a lawyer civil rights cases for people who have been discriminated against, whether it be race, age, gender, religion in a couple of cases, people that have been sexually assaulted, people that have been injured at work, killed on the job, killed in explosions. And that's what I probably have been doing for about 20 years here in the city of Houston, and have built up a law firm with about 15 lawyers and about 100 employees. And we do cases all over the country. If there's a big explosion that happened, like I had one in Richmond, California, I handled that. Of course, Galveston and BP and all that stuff down there.
Right.
But I've represented the state of Louisiana. I've represented many Mexican states, the Basque Country in Spain, Jimmy Buffett, the recording artist,
Right.
some local recording artists here, and copyright cases. So pretty much all across the board, and really love Houston, and it's been really good to me.
Cool, cool. So how far is Atlanta from Houston? Atlanta?
If you drive it, 6 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah,
Which
you're
way?
Straight northeast. Like
Okay.
you're going up there, like they call it the Arklatex.
Okay.
So it's like you're near Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, right there in that
Gotcha,
area.
gotcha.
So everybody walks around with one leg shorter than the other because they're kind of walking around the mountain. No, I'm kidding. That's not really true.
Okay, well, cool. So what? When did you decide you want to get in politics?
You know, in 2001, I ran for state representative as a Democrat,
Okay.
in a Republican district, and got beat badly.
Right.
And I decided then, okay, I'm never doing that again.
Right.
You know, people are mean, nasty. They hate you just because of you're a Democrat. They hate you just because you're this, that, and that's how it is now.
Right.
Even worse.
Yeah.
times
Very
10.
eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it was a very bad experience. And then after that, I did pretty good in the election for a Democrat and Republican district.
Mm-hmm.
So the party leaders and some of the local elected officials came to me and said, "We'd like you to be the Democratic Party chairman." So I was flattered, and I said, "Okay, I'll be the Democratic Party chairman of Galveston County."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was the worst mistake I ever made.
What's up?
Well, just because it's like herding cats, man. I mean, you know, you think the Democrats are mad at the Republicans are mad at the Democrats. The Democrats are mad at each other. I mean, it's nuts. You can't get anybody to be nice to each other.
Right.
You can't why don't we row the boat together
Right.
and try to advance our cause here? So I did that I did it for 2 years, and then I put myself up for election, won 60-40. There was a couple of people running against me. I won that. And then about 2 years into that, my business was going so well that I stepped down, and it was taken over by a friend of mine. And then I swore then, I'm not doing politics anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I ain't messing with it anymore. Fast forward, I'm living in Houston, and of course I know all the local Democrats and Republicans, because
Right.
I've supported people on both sides. And a guy that I really liked was Adrian Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
He had been the sheriff. He was running for mayor. He was supposedly the front runner.
Right.
And he came to me and asked me to help. And I said, okay, I'll help you. So I helped him with his debates. I helped donated money to his campaign. I threw a fundraiser for him. Well, he didn't make it. I mean, obviously, Turner and this guy, Bill King, ended up in the runoff.
Right.
And so I agreed with Adrian to do a fundraiser for the current mayor. Now, I hadn't really been focused in on city things.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't really been focused in. I mean, of course, I knew that the streets were terrible. I knew the flooding is a major issue.
Right,
I
right.
knew, the crime issues that exist. I've seen the illegal dumping all over this city. I've seen how there's just trash everywhere that needs to be cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
I sense a certain amount of pride in the city, but also a sense that we can do a lot better.
Right.
I also sense that, there's certain areas in this city that get a lot of resources, and other areas that look like they don't get hardly any.
Right.
I've seen these TERSs with these tax incremental reinvestment zones, where a lot of the city tax dollars are going to like Uptown, Upper Kirby,
Right.
Midtown, all these places. These places look like almost like Beverly Hills, and then you got
Exactly.
places that don't look anywhere near that good. So
Right.
I knew about all that stuff, and I talked to the current mayor about it. I said, "Look, man, I don't want anything from you. I don't do business with you. I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to do something about the city,
Right.
because we're going in the wrong direction." And, he's a good talker. We talked through it, did a fundraiser for him, but I started focusing then
Mm-hmm.
on what's going on in the city. And about 2 years into it, I'd had people over the years say, "Tony, you should run for mayor, because you're not tied to any party. You're outspoken. You got good ideas. You got a pretty strong backbone." But I started more and more thinking, you know what? I'm going to do that. Man, this city, I grew a great business. I've raised 4 kids here. You know, why is Houston not mentioned when we talk about the great cities of the United States?
Exactly.
Why are they not mentioned?
Exactly.
Why are we not? Why don't we celebrate? You know, we do have, obviously. We were part of the putting a man on the moon. Of course, we were part of it. We were part of the artificial, you know, the Med Center, biggest in the world.
In the world,
of course. Obviously, we have the diversity that we celebrate. Although we celebrate it here, but we never try to celebrate it across the country and attract people here.
Right.
Instead, we use J.J. Watt and
Yeah.
Jose Altuve rather than saying, "Look, you can come to Houston. You can be in many countries."
Right. Right.
You know, we got the great restaurants, although Michelin, the Michelin folks don't even come down here and rate our restaurants. But my thing was, why when people think about Texas, they think about Dallas and Austin. That's baloney. We're no offense to those guys, but we're much better than them in every other way. Why do they have that great music festival? And we got some of the greatest musicians
Yeah. To ever come out of this area.
exactly.
Yep.
And why don't we? I mean, heck, I mean, I love Beyonce. I love her.
Right.
But I'm not even talking about Beyonce.
Right.
I'm not talking about Travis Scott. I'm talking about the Dirty South, Bun B, Paul Wall. I'm talking about those guys. That's
Right.
my vintage
Right.
people, right? But we never talk about that. And so I said, you know what? You know, I'm not going to get every vote. There's going to be people not like me for this or that, but that's fine. There may be things I don't like about them, but if we can all pull together and say, you know, we're going to make Houston, we're going to put, I don't want to say on the map because Houston's clearly on the map.
Right. We've been on the
I just
map.
want to make Houston in that conversation when people talk about, how about let's start with the best cities in Texas, you know,
Right.
because a lot of the people outside, because I've traveled all over this country, when they talk about, you know, Texas, they don't mention Houston.
They don't.
And then once we get there, let's talk about the best cities of when they talk about New York and San Francisco and cities like that, let's put Houston in that mix. And we can do that.
Yep. And it's just like you say, just exposing the country to our city versus you know, trying to go out, because I know a lot of ideas come from different cities, like the super neighborhoods. I know Mayor Lee Brown, he got that idea from Seattle and things like that. So, yeah, we definitely need to get on the map, especially what you're talking about, our music, the Bun B's, DJ Screws of the world. Our music, you hear it in all of the music nowadays, the slow down.
It's all been, you know, rest in peace, but it's all been, you know, pirated and taken and stuff, which is good. I mean, that makes music. But, we got that, our restaurants. We got vibrant communities. You know, when they say people just say, well, we're the most diverse city in the country, but they don't ever say the third and fourth sentences, which is, okay, what does that mean?
Right.
Does everybody have a seat at the table?
Right.
How are you promoting that? You know, those are the things that I'm talking about.
Right. And speaking about the seats at the table, and you spoke on it a little bit, we have areas of Houston that rival Beverly Hills, and then we have areas of Houston that look like they haven't been touched since, you know, their inception. Yeah. How do we find that balance, even with the tiers, you know, with the tiers, with there being such a off balance with that?
I mean, and this is the reason most mayors can't say this, because most of the people that are on the boards that have leadership positions in these, whether it be Midtown TERS, whether it be Uptown TERS, the Downtown TERS, millions and millions of dollars at stake, and what they try to do is they try to bond that money so that you can't take it from them.
Right.
But I'm advocating that the whole purpose of a TERS is to encourage investment in an area that needs development.
Right.
Now, can we all agree? I could go to the richest people in this town who are stakeholders and say, tell me how the TERS continues to meet that definition in Uptown or in Upper Kirby. Look at the bus stops in some areas of this town where people don't feel safe to even sit at the bus stop. And look at the bus stops in Upper Kirby. It looks like you're in old Jolly England. Right? Think about it.
You have the covered seating and everything.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and then a separate bench. Here, you got a covered bench. It's all beautiful and red. It says Upper Kirby. You got another one just in case there's, you know, it means, enough is enough on this.
Right.
And so it's going to take somebody to say, you know what, guess what? We're going to sunset the TERSs. The TERSs that have fulfilled their mission, we're going to sunset them and reallocate those monies back to the general fund so we can, because I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be mean-spirited about it, but the TERS, we talk about, we want to be diverse and we want everybody to be together. The TERSs are creating more segregation.
They are.
That's what's happening.
They really are.
And You know, the Uptown TERS has run its course. It should be ended immediately. The Midtown TERS should be ended. The downtown should be ended immediately. The Upper Kirby TERS should be ended immediately. There's 72 or 74 TERSs. There's probably, I would say, 25 of those should just be ended.
Mm-hmm. And if we do that, is there a role that the community can play to say, hey, let's bring that funding here, and this is what we need it for? Just like, for instance, we're in the Greenspoint area right now, which is District B. If you look around District B, a lot of it is considered or labeled low income, but all of the neighborhoods have multi-purpose centers, community centers, something of that sort. But Greenspoint, we don't have it at all, and we've never had it. How do we speak to the city council and the mayor to draw their attention to our area and show them that we have need and we have people that are, if we get those resources and community centers, we have the people in play that can make them work and be a benefit.
You're preaching to the converted. I mean, I really think that that first off, those monies can be designated funds back to the TERSs that are not either existing, there may not be a TERS that exists, or TERSs that are incredibly poorly funded. You know, they always walk that line between gentrification and then providing money to the community such that the community gets the resources.
Right.
So that's a very fine line, because a lot of times you talk about, oh, we're going to bring in resources and funding and so forth, and people say, whoa, what are you going to do? Run everybody out here
Right.
and put a bunch of people we can't, homes
Right.
that we can't afford. So that's a fine line, and people, I've talked to a lot of people, are very sensitive to it. But enough is enough. You got the Post Oak bus lane that nobody's ever going to use because they got so much money they're just spending it. You got every beautiful light, street light that has a banner on it. I mean, think about this, man. That's money that could be used to maybe fix a street and fix a light, maybe put in a light. Maybe
put lights. Look, I'll give you an example. If you go one block over, there's a high school that was built maybe 5 years old. Not one street light on the street. And once the time changes in the winter, the children who stay close, who don't have a bus that takes them home, they're forced to walk in the dark, down a dark road. And reached out to the city to see about getting lights. They sent me out a form to fill. And in that form, it said, you as the resident that are requesting the lights, there's a fee that comes with putting lights into play if we don't have wooden poles to hang the lights from, and we have to put the poles and the lights. So I'm like, I'm a citizen. I can't afford to pay for light posts and things like that. Is that something?
Basic stuff.
Yeah. And how do we change that process? Do you even feel like
you got to? I believe. Look, a lot of people say, oh, that Buzbee guy, he's this conservative guy. People don't understand the reason I'm so conservative, financially conservative. I run businesses.
Right.
Is because every penny that I can save, every dollar I can save, I can deal with issues like that.
Right.
So to make sure every resident in this town, not everybody can look. I used to lie in bed. I shared a bed with my brother, a twin bed. Think about that, with my brother who was at the time about 200 pounds.
Oh, wow.
He was like 6 years younger than me.
So he had the bed. You
I was
half
just
of the
over on
bed in the floor.
I was on the little side.
Right.
And we would lay in bed and we could hear my mother and father talking about the bills that they weren't going to be able to pay. Basically kick the can down the road.
Right.
So I'm very sensitive to that. So when I drive to places across the city and see the inequity of, I don't see how that's how is my compassion for those things, for making sure everybody is treated fairly, because everybody can't afford private security in their neighborhood. They can't afford, I certainly couldn't. They can't afford a private school. Right. They can't afford a gated community. Right. These are the basic stuff. So I would lie in bed and listen to that, and that just stuck with me. So when I go around the city and I see things that are clearly upside down, it really makes me mad. And I think, how can I save more money? Like these TERSs that are spending money on these banners and these fancy bus stops and these, nobody's like, look, there's crimes going to happen everywhere across the city, but can we agree that your bus stop over there in Upper Kirby, you're probably pretty safe over there?
Yeah, you can assume.
Yeah. I mean, stuff's going to happen, but What about the person that gets up at 5:30 a.m. and has to walk 2 blocks, go to her bus, takes a bus and drives it, gets on a bus and sees all this across the city and from the East End all the way to Tanglewood and works in somebody's house all day.
Right.
Gets on the bus and drives all the way back, and she doesn't feel safe to even walk 2 blocks to and from her bus stop. That's just one example of people that I talk to.
Right. And then you have the people that go to work at 4 in the afternoon and they don't have a bus to take home because they stop running at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna. I'm trying to get out of that partisan thing.
Gotcha.
I'm trying to get out of that. Well, he's this, so this. Not true, and I don't believe it's true with most people. Now I know there's some people that are just fully blinders on. They're just, they've got their minds made up, but I don't have my mind made up.
Right.
If the mayor does something good, I say, Mayor, you did something good. It has nothing to do with his political party.
Exactly.
You did something good.
Yep.
But if the mayor does something bad, same story, and it has nothing to do with his political party. You've never heard me say, well, he's a this or he's a that. I've always said, look, come on, man. The $35 million contract where you gave $6.7 million to your law partner, that contract was the whole purpose of it was to go out and find people that qualify for federal aid. Why did I need to hire a company out of Virginia that got ran out of Louisiana for corruption, that partnered up with your law partner and give them $35 million when I can put 250 pastors into George R. Brown and say, pastors, listen, this is what you devoted your life to. These are the criteria of the people that qualify. Here's a handout. Here's the website. Can you go find these folks that need this, that qualify?
Right.
That's what these men and women have done their entire lives. Why do we need to spend money like that? I could have taken that $35 million and done something a lot better with it. Or holiday lights at City Hall. Now, those are nice and everything, but why am I spending $500,000 a year on holiday lights when I can go take that money and put it in the community?
Right.
Like there's a recidivism program or a pre-K education or financial literacy in the library. There's so many things that we can do with that to make our city stronger and have sustainability. And I can go on and on. We wasted $73 million in the airport. That would have paid for Prop B.
Right.
That would have paid for Prop B.
Yep.
We have 150. There was a pastor friend that I have. I won't mention his name, but one of his beefs with the mayor is when the mayor was running for office. He said, "Man, I have this recidivism program. It's $155,000 a year. We serve about 8 young men, mostly men. I'm sure they could do women too, but they're coming directly out of either jail or out of prison. And we're going to let them for 1 year. They live here. We provide counseling. We help them find a job so they don't repeat offend. Right. Basic stuff. This is what you become a pastor to do. This is what it's all about.
Exactly.
And we pay in the city of Houston a film consultant. Now that program that the pastor described is $155,000. We pay a film consultant $155,000 a year who lives in Beverly Hills, who has also, in addition to that, a $4,000 a month condo to bring films to Houston. Been no films brought to Houston. 0 films in Houston. So can you imagine how I'm not suggesting the pastor's upset or mad because he's a lot more, he probably has, deep spiritual understanding than me, but I would be madder than heck that, you say, could you support this program? It's a worthy program. It's a good program. It's good for the community. And yet we spend that money on a film consultant. That's my problem.
How do we find that balance? Because even if you look at our housing market right now, it looks like our housing market is catering to people outside of Houston. Our medium income right now is $48,000. But if you look at the price points on the new neighborhoods and communities being built, they can't afford it. So how do we find that balance not only in the housing market but within the low income communities? What is your plan to give a hand up and not a hand out? Because
we have to roll back some of these regulations and make it impossible to develop real affordable housing. Because what we're doing is we have housing for young professionals who get to a certain age and then they want to marry, they want to have children, they move out of the city, and then the older moving people further and further out of the city. And then we're spending billions on freeways so people can come back into the city, right? And then in some neighborhoods there's like Rice Military. There's places in Midtown. There's places Third Ward that the Midtown TERS has bought up tons and tons of property. They have a development arm. But the houses that they're developing there, those are houses that the median income of the people that live in the general area can't afford.
Right.
And so I think a part of it is we made we kind of cut our nose off to spite our face, that we made the regulations such that we can't build housing that's actually affordable for the people that live actually in the city.
Right.
I want to build more density in the city to encourage people to move back into the city, to encourage people to stay in the city, to make the city a place where people want to stay and live, with livable communities that are safe, that have the amenities, that we all have the same amenities. That's my plan.
Right.
I don't. It didn't make any sense for me that we're putting regulations in place and ordinances in place that make it difficult to actually build affordable housing. And then, so what it does is run people that have been living in these areas for years and years, and they have to go elsewhere, being displaced.
Yeah.
And then new people are coming in, but a lot of times the people that are coming in, they're staying there just for a little while, and they're moving out into the suburbs because they don't want to live in the city of Houston. Think about it. 80% of our police officers do not live in the city of Houston.
Oh, wow.
Most of our firefighters do not live in the city of Houston. They can't afford it. Most of our teachers can't live in the city of Houston. My brother-in-law is a Houston police officer. I said, hey man, he lives down in Friendswood. I said, why don't you live in the city of Houston? He says there's not a place that I can afford that I feel safe. That's what he says.
Wow. Well, I actually would like to challenge you today, give you a challenge. And now, we would love to see you in the seat as mayor. But if not, whether you're mayor or not, I would love to sit with you, talk about development plans in some of these low-income areas like District B. I'm connected with various organizations, various churches, things like that, where we can really sit down and come up with a collective plan on the development that we can see in these areas that will benefit the areas and draw in outside residents. So that way we'll have the best of both worlds. If we can empower the residents that already live there and bring attractions to draw that outside crowd, I feel like, Texas or Houston could be a more balanced city. So because I know you have you have a development company as well. So we would love to sit down and speak with you about that, listening to your background, growing up on the farm. We're looking to have community gardens in some of these low-income areas that have food deserts. We would love your insight on that. Of course, with your legal background, we could definitely use that with, the legalities that we may run into and things like that. So we would definitely love your assistance and support in the District B area, which a lot of people feel like it's a district that has been forgotten about for a long time now.
Agreed. You got it.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for having me on.